Hello and welcome to the bonus podcast for episode 446 of Conversation Street. I am one of your hosts, Michael, and I'm joined by my lovely wife,
Gemma.
Gemma, isn't she lovely, everybody? Hello and welcome to a Listen to Question segment. These feel like they're getting further and further apart. I don't like this because I really enjoy some of the great questions that our listeners send in to us to share our thoughts about and be creative and imaginative about with some of them as well.
Yeah, like, are Alexander and Sergei from the Meerkats gay?
Yeah, somebody did tweet us that this evening. That's very important. I don't know.
I don't think they are in canon, but I'd like to think that they
appear to be in more of a same-sex
really
relationship in the
friends.
adverts, but in the Corrie skits, they seem to be more into both of them probably into this the woman meerkat.
Well, also they've adopted the little baby one together.
Yeah.
And I don't know that the adoption agencies let you just with your friend adopt a child like it's a hobby. And also
anything goes. There's many little baby meerkats just crying out for homes.
Another advert, one of them went on a date with Nicole Kidman, which is cheating. Oh, yeah. So anyway, at the very least, they're bisexual meerkats who are really good friends.
For the people that want to know the answer to that Corrie-related question, there you go. There's our thoughts about that one. So we have
you don't know how romance works in the meerkat world. They might be very open. They might be polyamorous.
They're all just acting. They're just the characters. They're not even called Sergei and Alexander.
Right.
They're called Bob and John.
Yes, of course.
That's the first names I can think of. They're not Russian.
No, I have to say I do think they're putting on an accent.
Anyway.
This is about Coronation Street.
This is about Coronation Street, isn't it? Well, there's not much longer we're going to be able to talk about the meerkats on Coronation Street, to be fair, so get the chat in while we can. No, we have got two listener questions today, and the first of them is from John, who has asked us who he thinks the Coronation Street producers made the biggest mistake in writing out / killed off.
Yes.
Killing off,
yeah. This was a really good question because there are obviously actors who didn't want to leave who got killed off, so that doesn't answer the question.
No.
So they wanted to leave and they got not want to get killed off. Some people say, I want to leave, so kill me off. Like, for example...
Like Bhavna Limbachia.
Who played Rana, said, I can't imagine the character of Rana leaving Kate,
well, we can take... Well, let's just kind of take that angle first then. So, actors who chose to leave but were killed off, or any of these people a mistake, because I think at the time a lot of people said that killing off Tina McIntyre was a bit of a bad move because she was such an asset to the show. She was like the poster girl of Coronation Street for a period, wasn't she? Had lots of fans, good for the awards, even if it was just the sexiest female award.
I think in the end they just stopped doing it because it was embarrassing for everybody.
That was
she just kept winning.
But what do you think? Was Tina McIntyre's death a mistake?
Do you know what? I think I remember us saying that we weren't overly fond of her, and by the time she came to leave, we weren't particularly fond of her. We didn't like her affair with Peter. I can't say that I think the show is missing a Tina. I think she would still be a very dominant character if she was in it, and I'm not necessarily that interested in her type of character. No,
but I think that leaving the door open for her might have been a good idea because she was certainly a firecracker and people had their opinions about her, and she was a good actress.
Well, Michelle Keegan has gone on to do very many other projects.
Fire to the cobbles. She has.
Yeah.
And maybe she was definitely a character that I was a bit sick of by the time she left, but I might have been ready for another one. And also, I suppose, killing off Tina McIntyre also meant having to get rid of Mark Bayliss as well. And I can't remember whether he wanted to leave.
And that's Rob Donovan.
Yeah, I can't remember whether he wanted to leave or whether he was, a casualty of the Tina McIntyre murder storyline.
And the reason that he left was because his character murdered Tina McIntyre.
Yeah, and
he's like probably Tracy's one true love. Like she loves Steve. But really, if Rob was still around, she would be with Rob.
They could have gone on to be a proper power couple, it feels like.
Even though she actually, in the end, dobbed him in, didn't she? She's responsible for him being arrested.
They had a real
And really, that was a really important part of the redemption of Tracy's character, is leading the police to him, even though she loved him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I see what you mean. The thing is, Michelle Keegan has gone on to do so many things. Coronation Street, it feels to me like it was her springboard rather than anything else. And I really don't think that she would come back the same way. I don't think that who played Dr. Foster?
Who played Dr. Foster?
Saran Jones and Grumpy Happy Valley.
Sarah Lancashire.
You know I don't know. I don't know why you laugh at me every time. It's really dispiriting.
Those characters. You don't think that they're ever going to come back, do you?
I really don't think she would have come back. So I don't think that was a mistake.
Would that have been who?
I don't think it was a mistake to kill her off, because I think that was also a really great storyline as well.
It was.
They couldn't have really done that storyline with a different character.
Yeah, there's a good few months of that. What about some of the others? Speaking of being bludgeoned to death, Charlie Stubbs was killed off, and I really enjoyed watching him on the show as well. And some people might say it was a mistake to kill him off because he was a great presence on the show. On the other hand, people say it was a mistake to kill him off because it meant making Tracy a murderer, and that's something that they've still not been able to make peace with, and Corrie seems to have swept under the carpet.
Some people still don't agree with her presence in the show because of her. She did get punished, but not to... The thing is, I think she kind of has paid the price for it because she went to prison, but obviously she got let out on a technicality.
Yeah. Go on.
I was going to say, Charlie Stubbs is a character who feels like a very replaceable person. Like the actor, I loved him. I thought he was really good.
Yeah, Bill Ward was ace.
But it doesn't feel like, because they've not got Charlie Stubbs, there's no way they can have a grumpy builder or an abusive man. You know, it's not like we need that kind of character and there's a lack of them.
No, he just had a real kind of charisma and charm, didn't he? I think out of the, Corrie likes to go through their villains of the year or every couple of years, and he's one of my favourite of the lower key villains.
Yeah, I think he had a shelf life.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of villains do. That's the thing, isn't it? Like if he hadn't been killed off, would he have been written out? Would he have come back again? Probably not. But then maybe he could have done, because we've seen people like Rick Neelan come back after a little while.
Could he come back? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, no, maybe. Who knows? This is the question you were asked.
So I think, I don't know. And that was a great scene, his death scene. So. Yes. Maybe that wasn't a mistake. There was some. It's
difficult to say that a character being killed off is a mistake, really.
Well, there's quite a lot. I've been through my list of people who were sacked and people who chose to leave but were killed off and blah blah blah. And
we're not including people that chose to leave and didn't want to be killed off.
And I don't think there's anyone that said that they. I'm not sure there's many people that said they didn't want to be killed off. I don't know whether what Bill Ward thought about Charlie Stubbs being killed off. This is still part of the talking point, isn't it? Should they have been killed off? Because there's some characters, some actors who left, who chose to leave, and the decision was made to kill them off, and that was absolutely the right one. For example, Julie Hesmondhalgh, when she chose to leave, that was absolutely the right decision to kill her off. There was no other option other than getting rid of David Nielsen as well, which I wouldn't have wanted to happen. So she was killed off for the greater good.
Arguably, I would say that Rana could have gone and come back at a later date.
I think she absolutely could have gone and come back.
And I think it was unfortunate that too much importance was put onto a very minority of vocal fans who sort of ruined the storyline by the way they acted on Twitter. And think that Coronation Street sometimes... I think Coronation Street has now learned not to listen to vocal groups on Twitter for that very reason.
Well, we'll have to see, because there hasn't been another group quite like that since.
No, thank goodness.
Other characters in the same vein, like Fred, for example, his death wasn't a necessity in the same way that Hayley's was. But John Stavridon is still going strong, as far as I know. And it would have been nice to have thought, well, maybe Fred could have come back. Could he have come back for Ashley's funeral? Maybe, but he'd had enough of the show. And I suppose when you've been in the biz for that long and you've been in Coronation Street for a decent stint, if you say I'm done, then I don't know. Maybe he wouldn't have come back. And again, his death was a really kind of affecting moment. It was tragic, and maybe it was worth killing him off just for the utter sadness of the moment.
Yeah.
So same with Alma, really.
I mean, there is definitely something to say with going out with a bang. And these characters arguably quite memorable because of their exits. Like, you've got Aidan Connor, Hayley Cropper, Fred Elliott, Alma Baldwin, Michael Rodwell, Charlie Stubbs, Ernest Bishop, even probably one of the earliest examples of that, but not the earliest, obviously. He resigned overpaid, didn't he, Stephen Hancock?
Yeah, he wanted there to be more equality between the pay of different actors or something like that.
Going for the Friends approach.
He was kicking up a bit of a stink about it, so they chose to kill him off, and that was probably worth killing him off for. It's been a really integral part of Emily's backstory, hasn't it? The sort of eternal spinster, but she wasn't, because she married and was very happy with Ernest, and they had a lovely little relationship, but it's been sort of the making of her, really, because she's more of a free agent and she could get involved in lots of different storylines, and I think she was great as one of the old women characters because she was very unique, but it wasn't as though her personality came out of nowhere. It was years and years of crafting. Okay, so what about the characters then who were axed, which I suppose was maybe what John was getting at more. I suppose the classic example of that, if you go way back to the beginning, it was Martha Longhurst when they decided to kill her off. She's always the name that gets brought up with were Coronation Street right to kill her off, and there were rumours and stories at the time really that
interesting. Martha Longhurst is such an interesting
the cast were almost, there was an uproar amongst them when it was announced that they were killing off that character.
I remember reading this in Pat Phoenix's autobiography about what they thought when Lynn Carroll was being axed, and she was in 298 episodes, but she was in the first 4 years of the show, and she was part of that trio with Minnie, Martha and Ina, of the three old ladies. And I think the cast were shocked, and there was even, if you watch the scene where she dies, Peter Adamson, who played Len, stops before he gives the line that she's died, because he genuinely thought that it was a mistake, and
she
that
might
they
get
would
a
stop
last
him.
minute reprieve.
And it's like, it's not real life. It's the way that they, like, he turns around in disgust, and it's like, it's not him acting. I don't think it's Peter Adamson sort of registering his utter disbelief that they would do this.
Yeah, and even the writers, even the higher ups at Corrie admitted later on that it was a bit of a mistake, and it's sad because Lynn Carroll didn't really go on to get very many good roles. Tim Aspinall, the producer, thought that she would, but she didn't. What
happened? It's like, oh yeah, she'll be fine, but she was typecast because of how much everybody loved Martha. And Tim Aspinall also axed Frank Barlow, which was sad as well, because I think the actor who played him went sort of into decline after that as well. And he was also going to axe the whole Barlow family, with Ken, Val and Albert all being gone, which would have been very weird. What a parallel universe that would be.
Looking back at,
so that's a bit,
getting back to Martha though, do you think that Coronation Street would have really benefited from having her around? What was the relationship between Ina and Minnie strengthened by the fact that there wasn't a third wheel? Because watching the older episodes, the very early ones in the early 1960s, it felt that Martha was the third one. I thought
that Minnie was the third one. Honestly, it felt to me like Martha was a much stronger character.
She was a lot more outspoken, wasn't she?
She stood up to Ina a lot more, whereas Minnie was like quietly rebellious. And Minnie knew her own mind, and I think she let Ina dominate her, but it was with her consent, Whereas Martha was a bit more like, no, Ina. I think though, I really enjoyed Minnie and Ina's relationship after Martha died, but I still would have loved to have seen what it would have been like with
her. It feels right to have three of them, and there's always remembered the three in the snug, wasn't it?
This is the thing about having three characters, is that two of them can get into a disagreement with the other one trying to negotiate or taking a side. It's a much more interesting dynamic than just two.
It's just really interesting how those three are remembered as a trio, despite the fact that for the majority of the time...
I don't know if they are. I just think you keep saying
I think they are. Everybody says, Ina, Minnie and Martha in the snug.
I don't know that they do.
I think they do. And but that was just such a tiny fraction of time compared to how long Ina and Minnie had together, because they were together for another 10 years or so.
Crazy. The person I think I'm most annoyed about, and the person that they made the biggest mistake killing off, is Dennis Tanner, and I'm still salty about it.
I am incredibly salty about that one, and the fact that it happened off screen as well makes it even worse. He didn't even get a dignified exit. In fact, he got the very opposite
one of the worst
dignified
exits
in the 10,000th episode, for all and sundry to see, his urn run over by an ambulance, and all the way through that episode, when they were carrying him up to Blackpool to scatter his ashes, I was thinking, he's not really dead, is he? He's going to be there waiting for them in Blackpool, and he's going to have a surprise comeback, and it was just like, no, it's even worse than that.
I can't let it go.
They're
I really can't.
Him.
I think this was the biggest mistake of this year. But I still, if I was the producer, the first thing I would do is I would phone up Philip Lowry and say, what do I need to do? I'll get on my hands and knees and beg you to come back, because I'm sure that I think something happened.
It feels like, I mean, Stuart Blackburn fired him, and that, didn't he, back, whenever it was, 5-6 years ago, and that to me just seemed like a ridiculous mistake, because he'd been brought back, this legacy character, much loved legacy character, got a Guinness World Record for the longest amount of time in between playing him, and then Corrie was just like, I will marry you off to Rita, and then I don't know what to do with you now. Bye bye. I would say that
I think he was really badly treated.
He was doubly shafted. He was axed by Stuart Blackburn and murdered by Ian McLeod.
Well, the story goes in the show that he passed away. Was it dementia?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say if they said to me, right, you're the producer from now on, I would get him back, and I would say it was a ruse. The thing is, Dennis would do stuff like this.
Exactly.
Of all the characters who would fake their own death, it would be him. It's totally in keeping with his character. There's nothing weird about him doing it, because he's such a bloody little sneaky git.
And it is a soap thing to do, isn't it? The Coronation Street. I'm trying to think.
We would complain about it if we were watching it.
Would we have said retcon? or is it enough because we didn't see him die? I mean, it's not the same as Dirty Den being shot by the canal, is it? Or by the river in EastEnders? I think I'm remembering that scene right. So people see him die, and then he comes back years later, or what Bobby Ewing in the shower. It could have been a massive long con.
Dennis Tanner is the one that I'll never accept ever.
It's kind of nice, with your headcanon, to imagine that he's still
alive, going
out there, or he's over in Canada with Linda May, but I don't know.
Rob Donovan.
Well, we talked about him.
He's not dead though.
No, it's axings. It's writing out sort of axings. So I suppose we talked about him when we were talking about Tina. But yeah,
I don't think I think he'll come back. I think it's fine to write him out.
His character was sent down for a very long time. I can't remember how long. It was like 30 years or something like that.
Yeah, well, they'll let people out because of coronavirus. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Coronation Street uses this as an excuse, because they're not following exactly what the government's doing. And I know in some countries people are being let out of prison because of corona.
I can't see him coming back, but I mean,
I can.
We've seen him make.
Weird. On one hand, you're like, Dennis Tanner come back from the dead, and on the other hand, you're like, no, Rob Donovan was in prison for 30 years, Gemma. You're talking idiocy.
We've seen a few. Well, maybe one. I can't remember whether it's 2 instances of him appearing in prison, because he was like blackmailing Johnny at one point, wasn't he? But I think
I really like.
I think he was he was a real asset to the show, and I remember that. Oh yeah, there was also that bit where he escaped, wasn't he, during the Who Killed Ken? Sorry, who pushed Ken's story. And then people were wondering whether he was involved in that.
See, the thing about Rob Donovan, I'd like him to come back because Tracy has changed so fundamentally as a character since their relationship. I want to see what she would do if Rob came back, because they were both scallywags, weren't they? They're really, really ruthlessly selfish characters. And I wonder whether he would change Tracy for the worse back to how she was before. Because I do really like Tracy, but she's in danger of becoming a boring, anonymous...
I don't remember whether he was like
nice
properly
character,
really nasty, evil, villainous scallywag. I don't think he.
He screwed over Carla that time, remember, with the fabric.
Oh yeah, I know, but that was just brothers
that's
and
just
sisters.
Business.
I think that teaming him up with Tracy kind of brought to the fore the badness in him and
that's what
and
I'm
him
saying.
in her. So
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah, so I don't know if he came out a reformed character, or would he come out... I don't know.
The other person that I'm a bit upset that they killed off is Lewis Archer, because I feel like there's a real unrequited love story there that I don't feel like we really had a proper ending to the Audrey and Lewis love story. Because the thing is, it got caught up in all the stealing the money drama, and David and... Nick and stuff, and it feels like Audrey never really stopped to acknowledge that at the end of the day Lewis really did love her, and they were about to go off and live happily ever after. And you can't really lose Lewis and have a happy love story ending and not lose Audrey as well. So I can understand it from that perspective, but I just wish he was just like the milk tray man, just like lassoing into
but if he was going to come back, I would hope that they did a better job with him than they did in the finals thing, because he came into Corrie for 6 months or so, and it felt like he wasn't really in
Rosemary
it very much.
Was silly.
He made very sporadic appearances, and then he died. And even after Audrey found out that he was planning to marry her and he didn't steal the money, I didn't feel
satisfied.
Really got a proper satisfactory end up. Although I did enjoy his funeral.
Yes,
when it was with all the women fighting against each other.
Is that what you are secretly hoping for yourself?
I was doing a little bit of research and trying to find out who else was axed in Corrie, and thinking, was this a good decision or not? Sometimes it's very difficult to find out who axed and who left, and sometimes the actors are a little bit
discreet, aren't they? Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Yeah, but I mean,
we want to know the real gossip.
I mean, the main axe man on Coronation Street that a lot of people will bring up is Brian Park, back 97, and he killed off Derek, Don. Well, Derek was killed, Don was killed, Andy MacDonald was sacked, Maureen Holdsworth was sacked, Sherry Houston was sacked.
But do you not mean not renewed their contracts?
Yeah, basically.
Because you said earlier, who else did you say was sacked earlier?
It's axed, isn't it? The sackings are the different.
You said somebody else was sacked.
The sackings are the mark. What's his name? He played. He played. Mark Anwar. That was an axing.
Yeah, but who else did you say was axed earlier?
I don't remember.
Didn't really sacked. You didn't mean to say that.
No, I don't remember.
Because there's only a very few people who have had their contracts severed.
Yeah.
And those are for very specific reasons.
Yeah. Who played Tommy Duckworth again? Can't remember what his name was.
Chris Fountain,
yeah. Bruno Langley, obviously. Peter Adamson himself was sacked in the early 80s, wasn't he? So with all of those, it's like,
Was the guy who played Fred G? He just didn't turn up. And who was that other actress who was just like, I'm going?
That was Sandra Gough.
That's it. That's Sandra Gough. Yeah.
So they were axed.
She sacked herself.
But yeah, so out of Brian.
So the ones who were sacked specifically are ones who did things off screen that Coronation Street couldn't.
The people whose contracts were not renewed by Brian Park, then Derek, Don, Andy, and Maureen, and they were all pretty big characters. Watching the 90s Corrie at the moment, Andy does seem to be,
at a loose end.
And I'm not surprised that he went. Maureen was better with Reg, I thought, and after Reg left, and she was kind of to and fro with Bill for a bit, but she's not been as good. But I think that she could have had more in her. I think that Maureen and Maud were still pretty fun to watch, to be honest. Don, I've still been loving, and Derek as well. I mean, that was the biggest furore that was caused that when Peter Baldwin was had his contract not renewed, to use the correct term, but equally Thelma Barlow had said that she was going to leave anyway. So if he had been kept on, he'd have been on his own, and I don't think that Derek without Mavis would have been anywhere near as good. So at least he went out still a very beloved character, rather than somebody who lost their other half and lost their other half and then petered out. So it's difficult to say. I mean, a lot of these axings on the list here, or the non-renewings, looking back at them, it's like maybe that was the right decision. The Mortons, the Masons, Vernon, all of those characters Kim Crowther got rid of, and I don't think I miss any of them. Renee Bradshaw, fine, get rid of her. Tommy and Angela Harris, Bev, lots of these characters that are gone, I'm just thinking, I can't say that I missed them. Looking at the list, maybe Claire and Ashley could have had the potential if they'd kept them on for a bit longer. What do you think?
It's difficult to know without knowing what stories would have been planned for them, you know. I mean, I remember being upset when Maddie died, because I thought that the actress was great and the character had potential, and I thought she was going to leave.
Yeah, Amy Kelly wanted to go.
Yeah.
So that is a shame that she was killed off, because she could have come back,
because the thing
older
is,
and wiser.
like, she wanted to go and travel and stuff, and I just imagined her going off and broadening her horizons and then coming back.
Yeah. What did you think about Ashley and Claire?
I liked Ashley and Claire, but obviously once Ashley died, Claire couldn't have survived.
Claire couldn't have survived on her own
without her.
It's a shame.
Him. And they were already. The thing is, they were already going to go to France, weren't they? They'd already decided to leave.
They had, but the only reason that the characters made that decision is because Phil Collinson, the producer, had decided he was going to get rid of them. I think maybe Ashley was not as strong as he once was, and with Fred not around anymore, maybe he'd lost what, like I was just saying with Derek, really. It's very hard to argue with a lot of these axings. That was a mistake.
It's such an ensemble show, and constantly evolving, that sometimes when somebody's left, you look back and you're like, yeah, I can't imagine the show with them now, because it's kind of like a piece of dough, and you put a raisin in it, it sinks. Things get swallowed up, and kind of the edges get knocked off of things.
Yeah.
With a few exceptions, I think that the right decision. Like I said, I really, really am mad about Dennis.
He's
Maddie
the one that
felt like a mistake because she was a good actress.
What about? Can you think of any characters that were killed off screen, like after the character has left, that you think, no, I wish that they hadn't killed them off? I think you said that about Elsie before. I mean, the Tanner family has been obviously
so mistreated.
she could never come back.
Yeah, Patricia Phoenix died in the 80s, didn't she?
Yeah.
So there's no reason to keep. I mean, there's no way to bring her back, like you said. You could never just hire somebody to play Elsie Tanner. But I don't know what the point of saying that she died was. Like, is Enid dead? I mean,
I don't think it's
Hilda's not dead.
Hilda's definitely not dead. And I think that they need to have some kind of closure for Hilda.
I don't know if they do, because the closure that they gave to Elsie was also a bit kind of like, why have you done that? I mean, it was kind of a kind of a Hollywood movie star ending of like driving off the side of a cliff with your husband in the car, sort of thing. But it's really sad and tragic, because Elsie left to go to be with a man that she wasn't really sure that she loved, but she thought she could make a new life, and he loved her.
They had a nice exit.
They did have a really nice exit, and then to think that it all ended in pain and sadness and...
Sure, she didn't feel a thing.
You know what I mean, though? We didn't need to hear that. We could have heard anything. Literally, if you could say anything, why would you say that?
I wish that they hadn't killed off David Barlow, having watched him from the 60s this year. And he and Irma went off to Australia.
But then Irma would have not come back.
Well,
I think Irma was quite fun.
Irma was great.
David.
No, but I did really like David, and the fact that Ken's still going 60 years later means that David could have been a part of the story of Coronation Street for all this time.
But the thing is...
Alan Rothwell, is it? Rothwell, I can't remember. I think his name is still... Is he? I think he's still alive. I don't know. But I'd rather have Irma than David. Yeah, definitely. And I think that as soon as Irma had a baby on the show, I'm not sure how that would have affected her character, because she had the baby in Australia, didn't she? We never actually got to see the baby. Not David, what's his name? Forgotten. What's the baby's name? I can't remember, Probably something like Bartholomew or something really old-fashioned. Anyone else? Any other... I think basically my answer seems to be not very many mistakes looking back on it, but then you never know what could have been had they kept the characters in there. But the one that's annoyed me the most recently, like you, has been Dennis.
I think the point is, if it was a mistake writing any of these people out, they managed to cover their tracks really well. I think that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it's not really whether the character's there or not, it's what you do with the character, what you do with the storyline, and how you write them out, and how you recover, and whether you have anybody who's like that character, or if you can fill the gaps, or and there's nothing's shaken the core of Coronation Street so badly that, you know, people start to question whether it's ever gonna be the same again. And I know that there was a lot of high profile people leaving, weren't there, when we lost quite a lot of young ladies.
A couple of years ago, yeah.
And everyone was saying, oh no, what's going to happen now? I think we're all right.
Yeah, exactly. The wheels keep on turning.
Keeps getting bigger and bigger anyway.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, there are certainly lots of people right now who maybe should be on the axing list, and there haven't been very many actual axings, mass cullings for quite a long time, actually. And many people would say, well, there are definitely characters that should be shown the door, but Corrie just keeps on going, keeps them on.
I mean, if you're going to talk about a
smaller cast, I definitely think would be a benefit for the show at the moment.
If you're talking about characters that have left that really feels like they had unfinished business, and I would like to see them back, two obvious ones that spring to my mind are Henry Newton, which, you know, we love Henry, hashtag bring back Henry, because why the hell would you get rid of him? And why, I mean, he's better off out of that mess with Gemma, to be honest. But and Andrea.
Yeah, I remember Hayley Timadjan being really sad that she had to go. She was a casualty of Craig Charles wanting to leave, wasn't she? And
it's because those two actors are so genuinely nice.
Yeah.
But also, I really enjoyed their characters because they were bubbly and fun, and they gave something different and interesting that Coronation Street didn't have.
Yeah.
Before.
Who would you want to say who you might want to axe at the moment if you were the producer?
No.
Oh, why not?
What are you going to say?
Oh, well, I mean...
I'll get rid of Ollie.
Just been lying around all these months, yeah. I don't know. There's some obvious candidates, like, I mean, what is Izzy doing at the moment? Lots of people say, what purpose does Sean serve in the moment? But I mean, he's got a story coming up, which is okay. There's just so many characters. There's lots that could be axed at the moment, to be honest.
I mean, there are people there that if you said they'd left, we wouldn't necessarily even know.
Yeah. I mean, Brian and Kathy.
Have they left? No, they haven't. But if you told me they had done, I would go, oh.
Yeah.
That explains why they're not in it.
Okay.
It's a shame because we say this again and again and again. They are so good at casting. They've got so many talented actors. They've got so much potential. And I think that sometimes it feels... they feel like they're hoarding all these characters, kind of like what I do with, like, ingredients and plates. Like, I might need this. But if you store everything in a cupboard and you never get it out, what's the point of having it?
Exactly. Okay, I think we're done with this one.
Analogies.
Derek is not Derek. What's his name? Dennis.
Dennis is our massive.
Derek is our main
biggest,
answer. Martha Longhurst is the classic answer. But really, my answer is, it seems to me like a lot of the axings, looking back on it, is like, that was kind of the right decision, and the show keeps on going. And there isn't anybody that's bigger than the show. Yeah. Okay, right. We have got our next question, which is quite an exciting one. This is from Rebecca P, who wanted to know about. It's the time with the 60th. This one, so I thought we kind of had to do this week because it's coming up very soon. She says, imagine ITV has asked us to mastermind a special one-off Coronation Street feature-length production to be released in cinemas to coincide with the 60th.
I'm glad you said mastermind and not write, because I don't want to be involved in writing or producing any of this. It's too complicated.
You've got total creative control to go in any direction you like. So it can be literally anything: documentary, spin-off, standalone, special episode of the show,
doesn't have to be
live
canon.
broadcast of a stage production, canon or non-canon.
Right.
Money is no object. There's no restrictions on casting, and they're even willing to give you access to their top secret, super new hologram technology if you want to include people who have died.
Wow.
What do you do?
What do I do? Well, the first thing I do...
Are we going for silly or serious answers here, Gemma?
Can we not just give as many answers as we want?
Okay, mixture. Go on.
The first thing I'm going to do with unlimited budget is write myself into the show as some kind of heiress who then invites everybody on a special trip. So we've had loads of standalone DVD episodes of the show where they go to exotic locations like South Africa or Las Vegas or whatever. So I think I'm going to take everybody to Japan because I want to go there on holiday. And with the unlimited budget, we're all going into a luxury hotel where we will do lots of filming from our rooms where we can relax and eat delicious food. Obviously, we're going to be there to visit Rosie. And I don't care what the plot is because I'm getting a free holiday out of it.
So is the idea of the big budget, is that the main draw for you, and the things that they could do with
in that example?
With the money?
In that example, it is just an excuse to go on holiday.
Okay.
And I'll pick whoever's nicest to me in the cast to come with me.
What else do films use their budget for? It's mostly
Isn't it like
special
talent?
Effects and marketing as well, I suppose.
Well, a lot of it goes on marketing, and a lot of it goes on like big budget hiring people. So what about just hiring some real big Hollywood movie stars to do cameos?
See, I don't know whether I'd like that. I think that if in my head, if I was going to do something, it's really tough. I'd want something that didn't feel like, a cheap way to get bums on seats at the cinema.
I think the thing is,
you look back
Michael,
and go, oh, that was just, it didn't add anything to the canon because it was just silly excuse to get, Leonardo DiCaprio on the screen.
I think we're being a bit like a kid would be if you were to say get whatever you want. Like, just because you say the budget is no object doesn't mean you have to spend £1 billion.
Well, I did find that
But I just want to say, I think if you were to say, oh yeah, let's just hire a bunch of really famous actors, that would be obviously a really massive kick in the teeth to people who are in the show now. I wouldn't want to do
they'd
that.
Be overshadowed, and if
well,
it's
it'd be like you're not good enough to be in the TV show about the show that you're in. Yeah. So we're going to hire blimmin' Patrick Stewart and Nicole Kidman. But what I have said before in the past is hiring Hollywood movie scriptwriters or movie directors or short story writers or somebody really famous, like a really famous writer, to come in and do a standalone episode or a spin-off.
Or can we get Coronation Street directed by Quentin Tarantino, please?
A Quentin Tarantino episode, or
just tying in with our axing. Yeah. That would certainly thin the numbers out, wouldn't it?
It would, wouldn't it? Or say like Stephen King does like a short like a film, or I can't think of anybody else. Or Michael Bay comes and blows the street up. That's what I would do.
M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Yeah, and at the end it's...
Twist.
It's actually set in the South. All along they've lied to me. This is set in Hampshire. But yeah, if I was... I've always... I mean, I said it's a kick in the teeth to the actors if you say, oh, to make this special we're going to hire proper people that are famous, but it would be the same thing to the writers and the directors to sort of say, well, we're going to bring in some special talent.
I think that if I was going to have a 60th anniversary thing that was a special episode, I'd want it to still stick to its roots. This is going in the cinema though. Yeah, I know, and there are issues there, but I wouldn't want a whole load of extra new cast. I wouldn't want it to be they go on location. I think something celebrating the 60th, to me, needs to have the main cast set largely on the street or in Manchester, at least. Maybe they can do something, in the city. Shut down the city for the day, maybe. Could they? How much would it cost to say, right, close down central Manchester?
I don't think very much right now.
Let's have some Coronation Street set there. I think that might be quite cool. But equally, the other thing that I'm thinking of with the budget is going back to my idea that I had at the beginning of the year of give them a natural disaster. spend the money to completely, send a tornado through the street, tear it to bits, demolish the set.
Tornadoes aren't visually arresting. It's just people's hair blowing around.
It is. You saw that episode of Desperate Housewives.
Well, they all just hid in a basement. You can't hide in a basement in England.
There were bits when it was outside. Carlos got hit on the head with a fence post. They could have something like that happening.
Spoilers.
I would like that to happen one day. Have a big budget special effect thing.
Oh yeah.
With a natural disaster, just because it feels a little bit different.
In the
special,
UK,
and not completely out of the question. I know we don't have that many tornadoes in the UK.
It's somewhere between
massive floods,
or less than 1 and 0.
Yeah, but never mind. It's not.
We do have floods.
I wouldn't say it's out of the realms of possibility.
I don't think you have them in Manchester.
And compared to all the other, suspension of disbelief that we have with the various, murders or whatever on the show, I think I could enjoy that.
At the moment in the UK, the ITV is running a series of adverts about, is it to do with climate change and things?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the idents that they use is Coronation Street with windy weather in the background, and it's called Catastrophe Street. And it's like, if we don't stop throwing away plastic, we're going to all die, and this is what it will look like. But unfortunately, I was looking at it going, oh, that looks really cool. I wonder what this is. Look, Michael, look. And it's like, no, it's just a warning about the consequences of our rampant consumerism. Just turn it over.
I suppose if we wanted to, thinking about special effects again, if we wanted to tie it in with what's going on at the moment, I'd think, do we use it to make something out of this sinkhole which appeared for one episode?
I thought you were going to be like, let's do Contagion, but on Coronation Street.
Make something of the sinkhole, which was obviously, it seems to me this was planned a long time ago, and it feels like they were going to do something more with the sinkhole. I think there is still more to come. There's got to be, surely. Or do they build this block of flats, knock down the maisonettes, and actually knock up Ray's tower building?
Yeah, but this is, you're talking about an episode, a feature-length episode to go in cinemas.
This is the problem, isn't it?
You can't get too much plot in a movie which is based on a story that's been established 60 years ago. No. I'm going to say, if you're talking about sinkhole stuff, this is where I'm going to bring Stephen King in to write a story about some evil, eldritch, unknowable horrors that live in the centre of the earth that come crawling out and start to murder residents of the street.
If they were going to go this, would we now want a now possible cinematic death for Jeff? And we've said all along we don't want Jeff to die, but if he was able to have the most dramatic cinematic death that Coronation Street has ever done, would we say, yeah, go on, you're going down, Jeff, down that sinkhole?
Envisioning an evil, like, long, sticky, pale, dead-eyed monster with big claws crawling its way from the depth of the earth out of David's sinkhole to scuttle along the street and grab and eat Jeff, just like the T-Rex eats the lawyer in Jurassic Park.
There we go. That would be satisfying for the 60th. I've also thought of what's going on at the moment.
And then Ray goes, well, I'm keeping this 40 grand.
Thinking of what's going on at Coronation Street at the moment, I also thought of a couple of other potential storyline plot twists. For example, I think that Billy could just blow up the Archdeacon's house because he doesn't want to live there.
Right.
And so he just blows out. So you could have a massive house explosion.
How about
you could have what?
From the sinkhole, a gas main is burst, okay? But it's not a normal gas main. It's carrying some toxic chemicals that the government's just hiding in Manchester because they hate the North and want everyone to suffer, which seems pretty much how the government's acting now. So they're just siphoning off poisonous gas up to Manchester, and it's like a psychogenic, hallucinatory, weird thing that makes people go crazy. And so everybody on the street like breathes it in, and then they just go crazy and do whatever it is that they secretly have always wished that they could do. So I mean, Shona's been breathing this in for a while now, but suddenly everyone else is getting a big hefty lungful.
Is that why she's like that? It's seeping out the sinkhole?
Yeah, I think it is. And so Billy's like, screw this, come on, Paul, get in the car, we're going to go blow the Archdeacon's house up. And then other people, like Alia just like gets a knife and stabs Jeff to bits and then chops him up into pieces and makes a nice nahari.
thinking of going in the car. I was also thinking that maybe Peter could get into a car drunk to time with the current story and cause a massive pile up. I know it's a bit Emmerdale-y, but they could top the Hotton bypass crash, I think, possibly. Maybe they could have Scott escape from prison and he and Johnny like rob a Las Vegas casino. Be quite cool together to see that the whole Ocean's 11 sort of thing. Or maybe Dev sends Asher up to his news shop on the ISS just to try and get her away from Corrie and actually have Coronation Street in space. Or maybe they could use the big budget just to actually find a cure for mitochondrial disease.
That's
and
a bit
then
sad.
Oliver is cured of it after a bit of fourth wall breakage, and they'll live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Maybe.
That would be nice if that happened.
We're kind of still going around the idea of this being an actual episode. The problem with a cinema release of something is it's got to be something that can play for X number of weeks. So it's like...
Yeah, good point.
Or is it like Friday's episode ends with this cliffhanger, there's going to be another episode on Monday and you have got to go to the cinema this weekend to see the episode that's in between? Would it just be a short run?
Well, this is the trouble that happens with anime movies in Japan, because they're big draws and they get big budgets and they have better animation, but the plot's always a bit lackluster because they can't fundamentally change anything. It's more like a side quest. That where when you end up everything is as it was before, because it needs to seamlessly transition back into whatever point of the anime you're going to pick back up from.
I suppose the DVD releases for that Coronation Street have done in the past have been a bit like this, because all of them have been about characters going off to different places, and in the show they have gone off. Roy and Hayley went off to Romania, so they were able to release this DVD and you could watch that whenever you want, really. Same with the Las Vegas one, same with the QE2 one. You didn't necessarily have to rush to go and see it as soon as it was released. But then a lot of those DVD releases haven't been very well received. We've watched a handful of them, haven't we? And none of them have really made us go, oh, that was amazing, they need to do more of these. But partly because it's a small cast, somewhere new, and like I was talking about earlier, a Coronation Street special to me doesn't necessarily need to be set away from the street. I don't know. I know
what you mean. Well,
it has to be good. I don't want to avoid the same bad feeling that the DVDs have got.
When the initial idea came up, the question, I immediately thought of the things that we keep saying about and doing something along the lines of Road to Coronation Street or something like that, but set in the world. So Road to Coronation Street, you could have made that into a film if you wanted to. Put it in the cinema.
Yeah. And that felt like it was over too soon, because we watched it again earlier this year, didn't we? And it was an hour, just under an hour. And by the time we reached the end, it was like that hour has flown by, and it feels like they could have made this at least feature length. And if we're talking about feature length, we're going anywhere between 1.5 hours and 3 hours.
Yeah,
and that
days.
For 3 hours would have been amazing. And the other idea I've got along the same lines is like I'd really be quite interested to see a life story of William Roach, like a cinema.
Roach.
Yeah.
William Roach. Not Ken.
No, actual behind the scenes.
Checking.
Coronation Street is already the story of Ken Barlow. I would find that quite fascinating to be, like a Forrest Gump style film that is a life story of him from when he started to now, and it takes you through the 60 years of Coronation Street, just jumping about, and it's partly about the show, but it's mostly about William Roach and what he was getting up to and his reaction to things, and when he was maybe going to get sacked in the 60s by Tim Aspinall, what was and it's stopping off at key areas in Coronation Street's history. Then you got the bit when like he was having his battle with the son who said he was boring in real life. I would find that a really interesting angle to look at the story of Coronation Street through the eyes of the actor who has been in it all this time.
Right.
Yeah, I think better if there was something like, a TV series like The Crown, because that's looking at the Queen from when she was a princess up to modern day. They could totally do
the Crown version of Coronation Street, the early years and all the stuff they used to get up to, what all the characters, what all the actors were like in real life. Because you can take artistic licenses, quite a lot of them, because a lot of them are dead. But I can imagine.
Ooh, what would you call it?
Even just doing
the kimono.
Even just doing a movie about Pat Phoenix's life would be amazing, because her life was incredible.
I'm almost erring towards preferring something like that than an in-canon story for Coronation Street, just because my experience of those with the DVD specials has not been good, and also, like I was saying earlier, it's got to be able to slot neatly into to watching the show.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing that I said is something that we've spoken about many times on the podcast that we'd like is a wartime Coronation Street movie.
Yeah, I've written that.
Younger Ina, Elsie and Steve. I think a wartime story, but through the eyes of early Coronation Street characters. I'd prefer it if they weren't totally, stuck to canon as much as... I'd rather it was a really good movie, and then at the end you went, oh wow, and to think of all the adventures yet to come for those characters.
That to me feels like more of a TV thing.
Yeah, it depends on what the plot. It depends on what the plot would be. It has to be thing about movies. It has to be pretty simple. It has to be a very simple, one thing's happening with maybe two side plots, and then there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. You can't weave a ongoing tale doing the story of William Roach's life or whatever necessarily. But then if you think about stuff like Rocket Man or Bohemian Rhapsody, they managed to fit quite a lot into those films.
Yeah.
What about a musical? What about a stage play and musical? I mean, they've already done Coronation Street musicals, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of something that's tacky and cheesy.
How can you say it's tacky?
Which that would be.
How could you?
I'd want it to be something that really, lives up to
La La
Corrie's...
Land wasn't tacky.
I'd want something that properly celebrates Corrie's history, something that would be properly good and not just, I'm going to go and see this just for a laugh, which is why I wouldn't want it to be.
Rude.
I wouldn't want it to be something that was non-canon. Let's go and watch Parallel Universe Coronation Street, or let's go and watch all of the Corrie villains from across the years all come together for a massive battle royale style, shootout, and last villain standing. It's funny to talk about it, but if they were to actually do something, I'd want it to be serious, and then either canon or, like I said, I think I like the idea of the William Roach documentary. I wouldn't want it to be a
I don't know how many people you're going to get to come to see this film.
Well, I don't know how many people you're going to actually get to see any Coronation Street feature length.
You're going to have to be
to be fair.
Yeah, I know. This is the thing.
But we have got the marketing budget, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true.
If we've got somebody good behind it.
There's no way you can flop if you've got a big marketing budget. I also had an idea, which is like a weird crossover between Coronation Street and Doctor Who, where Elsie Tanner, Ina Shovels and Annie Walker are companions to the Doctor, and they come to modern day Weatherfield and just for an hour and a half just go, what the hell is going on? And Ina's like, why is everybody living with each other? They're not married.
Is this using this special secret holographic technology?
Yeah,
that,
once I found out that I can use this special hologramic technology, I was all for.
I was kind of thinking that I would maybe use that to bring back characters whose actors have died but the characters haven't, going back again to what we were talking about earlier. So if they were going to do a special episode, do they have Hilda come and visit the street now that Jean Alexander has died? But this would be a chance to bring her back.
Yeah. I have to say I do have a massive issue with what they do with how they brought back, was it Grace Kelly wasn't it? It was.
Didn't they do it with Princess Leia?
The actress. Yeah, they did. They did computer generate Carrie Fisher, younger for a movie. But Also, for the adverts, for the chocolate adverts, Audrey Hepburn.
Oh, yeah.
I really think that is so disrespectful. I can't with it. It really upsets me. I don't know who signed off on this, but I just think it's like, it feels like somebody's trapped your soul inside an evil machine for all eternity.
I think it's something that sounds cool at a time, but then when you look back at it,
it's so macabre. It's like reanimating someone's corpse to sell chocolate. It's just not very nice. But you know, this hologrammatic technology has obviously been signed off, and everybody agrees it's completely wholesome and wonderful, and there's no objections, and annoying people like me sticking their oar in to complain about stuff. So yeah, that I think that would be quite fun. And also those three too. I think Elsie Tennant, Ina Shabbles and Annie Walker, to me, are like, you can add Hilda in, but those three, if you're going to go back to the beginning of Coronation Street, they're the three.
They're the three you'd want to have coming.
And especially considering how annoyed they are always with one another, I think the dynamic between those three women would be quite fun.
Yeah, bickering time travellers.
Yeah. And the Doctor would probably not be able to handle them.
Speaking of the Doctor, that was another big thing that we saw that was Doctor Who's 50th anniversary, wasn't it? They had that Day of the Doctor episode that we went to the cinema to see, and that was a big event. Again, that worked for Doctor Who because they'd finished the series, and then there was a gap, and then they had that 50th anniversary episode in the cinema, and then there was a gap again. So maybe they'd have to do something like that to Coronation Street. Literally,
stop production.
Stop production. Say, right, you have got 2 months.
This cost us £500 million, so you've got to stop and watch it.
Yeah, and then we're going to come back again in 2 months, and at least then that way, you wouldn't know what would happen in the film, because let's say like there's a bit in the film where is a character going to die, you think, well, I know they're not going to die because I've seen in the TV mags for next week they're still alive. But if they literally stopped production of Coronation Street for 2 months and there were like no spoilers leaked or whatever, you'd be going in there thinking anything could happen.
Anything.
So maybe there's an idea. Rebecca also suggested things like a documentary or a broadcast of a stage production. Would any of those sound good to you?
They don't appeal to me, really.
They don't to me either. For documentaries, I mean, we're already in the anniversary week, got the Queens of the Street and this other 60 years. We're already getting 2 big feature-length documentaries. I don't need to go to the cinema to that. And they are made up of clips we've seen before. Yeah, I feel like it'd be a waste.
It'd be a waste of time. And also, I still think that they haven't properly done a proper documentary about how Coronation Street was made and how it came to be, and like they've talked about it and they've played clips and they've had little anecdotes and snippets and stuff, but I want literally like a 10-part documentary about explaining everything to do with Coronation Street. And like, here's Tony Warren, this is what happened, this is what he did, this is what people said, this is who he was. You know what I mean?
The road to Coronation Street covered a lot of that.
Yeah, it didn't really though. And it was less than an hour. Here we are at the Navigation Inn. This is where he wrote the original script. This is where he lived. This is his house. This is where Pat Phoenix lived. This is her childhood house. This is what she grew up like. This is her story. This is, we know, I know snippets and stuff, but I really feel like there's so much that is not all collected together on one spot. You can kind of create the story yourself by reading, watching clip shows, reading people's autobiographies, reading memoirs of producers and stuff, but it's never collected anywhere in like one big comprehensive actual story about Coronation Street. And I like archive footage of them appearing as the actors places, because they were always going to open places, and appear as special guest stars. And is there footage of that? Is there footage of people swamping Pat Phoenix? I want to see where Annie Walker's what's her name,
Doris Speed's
where her house was. Who was it? I've forgotten who it was. One of them had a bungalow and she had to change the layout of it because people kept looking through her windows. I can't remember. You know what I mean? Like, here we are this is the village where so and so. Yeah, but yeah, I'd like to see that, but not as a big. If I'm going to see something at the cinema,
I want it to be cinematic. I want it to be epic. I want it to have the filmic look. I want to have the Corrie's best script writers all collaborating together on it. I want Matt Hilton directing it. But I think, having talked through all the options, I'm sticking with my idea of my life of William Roach. But it's not really about him. It's not really about him. It's about the story of Coronation Street through the eyes of William Roach over the years. I would find that really interesting, and I think it'd be respectful to the programme, and it'd be about it'd be a new way to revisit the same old Coronation Street scenes and stories and everything that we've seen all over the year. And it wouldn't just have to be about the Ken story. That's my answer anyway.
Well,
have you got anything that you're settled on?
I just want just do like a really cool war story.
I suppose the other thing as well, I've thought, just lastly, I was thinking, we said about Corrie stop production for 2 months so you can go and see it. What if it was something that marked the end of Coronation Street? So Coronation Street has been a serial for 60 years. They're stopping it. They're saying this is it, and there was going to be the big like with Downton Abbey, it with a film.
They didn't end it with a film though.
Okay,
and the film was after this had all happened.
Yeah, okay, well, I'm sure there's other examples like that as well.
I've never seen Downton Abbey before.
But then sometimes those things, Downton Abbey the movie was great, but then absolutely fabulous the movie, rubbish. So great.
Yeah, Downton Abbey the movie.
You want to know how Coronation Street ends?
I went to watch it, going, "This is going to be crap," and it was amazing.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, I do think, I hate to say this, but anyone going to watch a cinematic Coronation Street experience will probably be going in with the mindset, this is probably going to be crap, but I'll just see what it's like.
Well, if it was the last beat of Coronation Street, then I think we could trust them to pull out all the stops and make it an amazing job.
Can you imagine? You're like, it's like when you went to go see the final Lord of the Rings movie, and they're like, right, if you want, just in case you wanted to, we're going to recap the first 2 movies before we screen this one at midnight, so you can come and watch like at 6 o'clock in the evening and watch the first 2 movies before the third one. You'd be there for like 60 years. So we're just going to catch you up on because you really need to know this is important, otherwise you just won't get get why we hate Michelle.
I think we're done. I think we've come up with a few good ideas there. I think they're leaving a bit late if they actually want to do this in time for the 60th.
Listen, Michael, if they're giving us all the budget, then
we can make it happen.
I will make anything happen with unlimited money. I still think that the everybody goes to Japan.
Okay.
So that I can go to the Hyatt.
Go and rescue Rosie.
Oh, we're going business. No, we're going first class.
Okay. Well, as always, listeners, do please write in and let us know what you think. Have you got any better ideas than us for spending this $100 million
you think you can
to make a cinematic Coronation Street experience of the 60th anniversary? Or who do you think was the biggest mistake for the characters who killed off or write out?
What about if a character wins the lottery? Oh my God, it would be Gemma. No, forget it.
We're done. I think we are finished for the night. That was our bonus podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Thank you for listening.
Do write in to conversationstreet@gmail.com. If you want to share any of your thoughts or any of the many other ways that you can contact us. And
Twitter,
don't
Facebook.
forget to check out our other podcast this week where we talk about all the harrowing hospital things that have been going on. Yeah, well, it's Wednesday evening as we're recording this, so we don't know exactly what's happened on Friday, but things were looking bleak the last time we watched something. Let's just say that.
Leanne Battersby did moan.
Goodbye, everybody. See you next time.